Hello, and welcome back to Fashion and Founders, the podcast. My name is Victoria Smith, and this week I'm joined with Sophie, aka Style with Soco. If you don't already know Sophie, you might recognize some of her iconic pink or vintage looks she wears around New York City. She's already had an incredible career in the fashion industry and shares really good advice for anyone looking to get started, whether you're a college student, post-grad, or making a career pivot. She used to work in the Bloomingdales corporate team, and we talk about her time there as well as her transition into working for herself. We dive into what it's like working for yourself full-time, the new opportunities, challenges, and responsibilities. And something I loved about this episode was that her advice spanned from landing your dream job to starting a business and growing it. And I love how open she was about the amazing moments and also the scrappy stories that we don't often see behind the scenes. A lot is covered in this one, and it was so much fun. Listen or watch on your morning walk or commute, and let's get into the episode. And this week's highlight is the brand Sarah Nicole Vintage. I actually found her because she was tagged in Sophie and Jess's Meet You in 5 campaign, and I just loved the pieces that they were wearing that she had curated, and so I wanted to learn more, and she shared. My love for designer fashion comes from my family. My grandmother owned a boutique in the 70s, my aunt was a wholesaler in Paris, and my grandfather on my dad's side was a Holocaust survivor, who upon immigrating to the US became a high-end tailor and suit maker. Both my parents taught me the value of quality over quantity, and my most treasured material possessions are those that were passed down to me. My background is a bit unconventional. I worked in corporate ad sales at major TV networks in NYC for a little over a decade. In 2019, I had an accident and was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, where I not only had to stop working, but I had to relearn basic skills. While in recovery, my mom, my everything, was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, reinforcing how precious life is. I didn't think I would ever be able to work again, but I drew strength and inspiration from my mom and started Sarah Nicole Vintage in October 2024, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and donated proceeds to breast cancer research, a tradition I plan to uphold every October. Sarah Nicole Vintage is a direct extension of my love for fashion, family, and deep connections. I have some unreal designer vintage pieces from 2000s Galliano Dior, Tom Ford Gucci, late 90s, early 2000s JPG, and a serious Chanel obsession. I am also obsessed with helping people feel their best, and that's why I sell on Instagram, so I can have conversations with all the amazing girls out there, and I especially love helping brides. I now live in a quiet beach town in Cape Cod with my husband and daughter. I still struggle with my brain and have many insecurities around it, but I want to inspire people to go after what they love. My hope is that the vintage pieces I sell create memories and are one day passed down to the next generation of loved ones. I'm so grateful to Sarah for sharing this story and the vulnerability around it, as she wants to inspire other people to still go after their passions. Throughout that story, you can just tell how much she loves what she does and the connections that she's been able to make. You can check her out at Sarah Nicole Vintage on Instagram. Hi, Sophie.
Hi.
I'm so excited we get to do this.
I know, me too. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
I didn't mention this over text, but one of my friends once sent me your profile and was like, wait, have her on. Like, I want to know more. So you've been requested.
I'm so honored. I love that.
Yeah. So I'd love to get into like a bit of your background, how you found yourself in fashion, and the origin story of Style of Soco.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. It's kind of been in my blood literally since the day I was born. I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington, but both of my parents are from New York. My mom's from Long Island. My dad's from Brooklyn. So I grew up spending my summers in New York, and I would come, my mom would bring my brother and I here. We would stay in like 10 different houses. And I feel like that experience of coming to New York as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh. From the first day I can remember, I was like, I want to live in New York. Like, this is my place. And my mom actually worked in fashion. She started her career at Bloomingdales as well, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
My grandma worked in retail. My grandpa is 90 years old and still like selling products. So it really was like a part of my kind of family history, come from a long line of great salespeople. But just like I always, from an early age, had like a very strong love for fashion and personal style.
Mhm.
And I think going to New York every summer, because the area that I grew up in, Seattle, and like my high school, like fashion wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Like people were not getting dressed up for school. Like I kind of always felt like I was like out of place in that way, where I would show up to my high school in these like crazy outfits and everyone's like, what are you wearing? It was the time when everyone's wearing like
Yeah.
Lululemon leggings and Uggs. But it was really like, I think going to New York every summer, that kind of sparked this like, ooh, I'm gonna go to New York and I'm gonna come back to Seattle with all these new clothes. Like
Mm.
I would do a haul for my best friend, who's still my best friend, and we live together in New York now. Like I'd always come back from New York and be like, here's my haul of all my New York stuff. And I was so excited that like no one else could get it in
Yeah.
Seattle. And I always kind of, since I was a little girl, I always loved pink. For years, I wouldn't wear jeans because I would only wear pink pants. I very much like stayed true to like my inner child, as they say. But I've always had a love for kind of finding out of the box pieces, for using fashion to express myself. It just has always been like a part of my DNA. But interestingly enough, when I was in high school, I really didn't like think of it as a career
Mm.
for some reason. I don't really know why. I was very invested in like school. I was like straight A student, perfectionist, like thought I wanted to go to like Stanford. Like looking back, I'm like, yeah, no, wasn't for me. But anyways, I wanted to go into maybe like child psychology. I don't even know. But then when I was a senior in high school, it was starting to be like second semester senior energy. I just kind of started my style Instagram, Style with Soco. And it was really before the time. I'm 27 now. So this
Mhm.
was in 2016. It was really like
Yeah.
before the age of influencers and like that whole thing blowing up. But like I said, I would show up to my high school. I was among my friends, like the fashion girl, like everyone would come to me and my mom for advice. My mom was also like taking me to Crossroads vintage shopping. Like we have been like shopping in interesting, fun ways, like going to the sale racks at Target, like for my whole life. So we've
Yeah.
always been like very good at like finding things on a budget, finding unique pieces. So I was always that for my friends. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to have a place where I can like see all these fun outfits I wear. So I started this page in high school, and whatever, I had like probably 50 followers like my friends, but it was fun, and I would just post my outfits. I would like literally cut off my head. Like I wouldn't put my
Oh, no.
face in the picture. Like, I would just say like top Aritzia, bottoms, free people, and I would like write a little like
Mhm.
cringy blurb. But it really, actually starting that page was what gave me the confidence and the actual assurance to be like, wait, maybe like I'm really good at this and maybe this is something I can go into as a job. So I kind of like I started that page, I kept up with it, and then I went to college at Tulane University, which was amazing, but it wasn't really like a school with fashion
Yeah.
classes or any sort of fashion opportunities. But once I got to Tulane, I kind of had decided, I was like, okay, I think I want to like maybe pursue internships in fashion over the summer. I think I want to get more involved in this. Like, this is my thing. This is what I'm passionate about. So while I was at Tulane, I got involved in like anything I could at the school that was related to fashion. And, I also speak to a lot of young girls who are in college looking for internships. And just to throw in a little bit of advice, I think there's so many girls who want to work in
Mhm.
fashion and they're like, it's my dream. It's my dream, which is great. But it's like, what are you doing to like show that? Like,
Yeah.
what's on your resume? Like, at that age, like, I was working at a local consignment store in New Orleans, which was great experience. I started writing for the fashion magazine at Tulane, and I became like the fashion and beauty editor for the magazine on campus. I started this like clothing swap program at my school's Hillel. I kept up with my fashion page. I started a fashion club. I just like really got involved wherever I could, and I
Yeah.
like made it my thing. And then over the summers, as I said, I spent every summer of my life in New York. I have a lot of family friends, a lot of my mom's friends live here. A lot of my extended family lives here, which I'm very lucky that, I was able to come here over the summer and like have a place to stay. I am forever grateful to my mom's best friend, Jamie, and the Mitchells, because they housed me every summer when I interned. And I feel like without them, like I truly couldn't be where I am today. But yeah, so I did fashion internships every summer. My first internship at the time, my mom was selling this line of clothing called Etc., which is like this line of clothing that like women sell out of their
Mhm.
house. Very much like workwear
Yeah.
oriented, Not really my vibe, not really like our vibe as like young people, but it was kind of like it was my way in. And I think the fashion industry is so deeply built on connections. And I used to be someone who was like, I don't want to use any connections, but like if you have a connection, use it. So
Yeah.
my mom kind of helped me to like get an internship there. And it was amazing because I feel like I learned so much about just like how a fashion brand runs from start to finish. I was just kind of like a general intern. So I kind of was like seeing everything. I got to see, the design and production element of it. And it was my first experience like working in New York in fashion. And I absolutely loved it. It was so fun, even though I didn't necessarily I wasn't super passionate about the clothing. It was just great exposure and like you have to start somewhere. And then the next summer I interned at a great brand, Ramey Brook, and I was doing PR and marketing, which was really fun. I loved like helping out on the photo shoots and seeing kind of that whole side of it. And then the summer after that, I got the Bloomingdales internship, which was a very difficult internship to get and to do. It was
Mm.
more intense, but my dad had kind of actually sat down with me when he realized I wanted to do fashion. My dad has always been like a very strong force behind my career because he's very honest with me. And he kind of sat down with me before I was applying for internships like the summer before senior year. Cause that's a big year to
Yeah.
like get an internship and then you have a job after college. And he sat down with me. We were at Starbucks in my neighborhood in Seattle. And he was like, I love that you love fashion. Like, I love that you want to do this. But when you move to New York, like, you're supporting yourself. So I just want you to be aware of like the money that you're going to be able to make. Like, there's not a lot of like high
Yeah.
salaries in fashion. So I think, I just want you to be aware of the situation. And at the time, I'm like, Dad, you
You're
stop.
ruining my
Like, you're
dream.
ruining my dreams. But now I look back on that and I'm like so grateful that I kind of had that like realistic thing because then that kind of pushed me to apply for more of the like buying business
Mm.
side of fashion that had a higher salary. So I applied for the Bloomingdale's internship. I ended up getting that. And I kind of went into that not knowing that they do return offers, but that internship was incredible. I learned so much. It was really intense too. It was kind of like a 8-week long interview.
Yeah.
So there was we had to present to the CEOs. We were shadowing on a buying team. So I did the buying internship. I loved it. And I was very lucky, but I obviously also worked hard for it to get a return offer to come back in the buying program when I graduated college. So I graduated school in 2020, which was kind of like a weird time.
Yeah.
Weird time, graduated virtually. I had to leave school early and like never really finished my senior year, but I went back to Seattle for COVID. And then it was very unclear if we were going to start Bloomingdale's, if it was going to be in person, if it was going to be online. But since I had had so many years and so many people in New York, I was like, I need to get to New York. Like, I'm
Yeah.
ready. So I moved to New York in August of 2020, which was a weird time to move,
Yeah.
but I got a great deal. And it was kind of like a nice time to get adjusted to New York when there wasn't so much like socializing yet. Like, a lot of my friends from school were still living with their parents. And I feel like that year was so instrumental for me because, first of all, I started working at Bloomingdale's, which was great. It started virtually, but I was in New York and they had placed me, which was kind of my dream area to be placed. I was placed in their private label, Aqua.
Oh, that's
So
a good
it was
brand.
very different from any other buying area because it was a lot more creative. So you
Mhm.
got the chance to do like product development, designing, work on all these collaborations. And I always, another tidbit of advice for my younger girls, because I always get these questions. Another thing that I feel like really helped me is like, even when I was in that internship, I constantly expressed, I was like, I want to be involved in the creative projects. Like, I want to know what's going on in the fashion office. Like, what are the fashion directors doing? I want to speak to this person. I volunteer to do this. And I think because of that, like, they saw me as a very creative person and they placed me in that area, which is like where I really wanted to be. And while I was in that area, I was constantly like shooting my shot and like putting ideas out there, being like, I want to help on this creative thing, whatever. So I was in Aqua for a while. And then I was an assistant buyer in contemporary ready to wear, like Theory, Vince,
Mhm.
Free People, French Connection, those kinds of brands. And it was a very different experience from the first buying that was like not true buying where you're like going in to market. It was more like we were buying from all these vendors and
Yeah.
getting to design the product. So I feel like I kind of had a false introduction to buying. And then I got into this like real buying job. And also, granted, it was COVID. So there wasn't a lot of the fun stuff like going into the showrooms and stuff. But I was like, ooh, I hate this. I don't want to be a buyer. I was like, I do not like this. This is not for me. It was much more numbers based than
Mhm.
creative. And it's an amazing job, but I think it's also really good to learn like what you don't like. And I kind of
Totally.
immediately knew. I was like, I don't think this is what I want to do. And so then I was, struggling for a bit, but then this job opened up within Bloomingdale's. My job title was Unique Merchandise Initiative Strategist. Bloomingdale's has this rotating pop-up shop called the Carousel. They have like a physical store in 59th Street and a whole online thing. They've done a ton of cool partnerships. Like while I was in the job, we did like a partnership with Barbie,
Oh, wow.
like Marc Jacobs, like
I think
Europe.
Coachtopia is
Yeah,
popped up right
Coachtopia
now.
is in there
Yeah.
now. So I got that job kind of not really knowing what it was, but basically I was kind of like the assistant buyer for the carousel,
Mhm.
but everything I was buying was new. Every time they did one of these pop-ups, they brought in like 5 new brands. So my
Mhm.
job was really to handle all the buying for those, but when we were buying for the pop-ups, it was more like buying for a marketing purpose versus like we have to sell like thousands of
Yeah.
units of this. It was like what's going to tell the story of the pop-up. And simultaneously at that time when I got that job, when I moved to New York, on the other end of this whole thing, I had kept up my Instagram page through high school, college. And then when I moved to New York, TikTok became like a thing. And I had posted a TikTok of like moving to New York that kind of went viral. From then on, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep rolling with this. People were commenting. So I kept, I talked about my job, fashion, whatever. I just literally never stopped from that
Mhm.
point on until here. So on the side, I was getting more traction on social media. I was building my pages. I started getting invited to all these influencer events. I think I made like hundreds of new friends, like summer of 2021. Take me back to that time. That was when like New York really opened up. I had moved downtown and it was the first time, I had been building this online community, but this was the first time I could really like experience anything
Yeah.
in person. And I like went to events every night. Like I went out every night. Like I met like so many people and it was the time of my life. It was amazing. And I was just like so excited to be doing like all of this stuff. So with my job in Bloomingdale's, it was really cool because I had made so many connections with smaller brands through
Mhm.
my social media platforms that I was actually able to bring a lot of those brands into Bloomingdale's, which was really rewarding for me because one thing I love about being in this space is getting to like build up other
Yeah.
founders and entrepreneurs. And so I absolutely loved that job. It was amazing. It was so creative. I really got, and I was working with the fashion directors and PR and events. And it was a really unique job because I was getting to like curate all of these pop-up
Yeah.
shops and it was awesome. And I really loved it. I was in that role for like a year and a half, but then it got to a point, I think this is taking me to how I left Bloomingdale's, but it got to the point where there really wasn't like a next step in that role. Like my boss was 10 years older than me and
Mm.
I loved it. And also a lot of people that worked at Bloomingdale's that had been there for like 25 years, like their whole career. And I was kind of like, "Ugh, like, I don't know if this is what I want. Like, I don't know if that's me. I don't know if I see myself in these people. And from doing all this stuff on the side, I have always had this like, my dream has always been to like have my own brand, have
Mhm.
my own business. I've always had this itch to like do things on my own, to like be creative, be scrappy. I've always loved that side of things. And that's kind of how I got into all of this. So, being at such a corporate company and then simultaneously having all this like fun, unique stuff and getting to see what all the other brands are doing on the side, it was kind of like almost like fucking with my head. It was like
Yeah.
two different things. I was like, I don't really know. I felt like I wasn't putting 100% into anything. So I think I had this itch to like put more into like that whole creative, what I was doing on the side.
I love hearing all of this story
Yeah.
because I think so many people can relate to it, but maybe they get a little nervous to like really take the
Yeah.
jump. And
Yeah.
so, was there a specific moment, or you're like, okay, I have to leap into this, or maybe like I never will?
Uh-huh.
And I think there is becoming maybe just like who I follow on Instagram, TikTok, but like a kind of pipeline of like girls who work corporate
Yeah.
fashion, learn a bunch, and they're like, wait, but I want to do full time content and work
Yeah.
for myself. And like,
Totally.
especially when you're pay the salary you make, instead of having a ceiling, you have a floor. And it's like, how high can I go? Like, how much
Yeah.
money can I make?
Totally.
How many connections can I make? What led you to be like, I'm working for myself now?
Yeah. No, it's so funny because I feel like subconsciously I was always meant to do this, and, like, I've had this page since I was in high school. It
Yeah.
makes sense that, like, I would wanna be an influencer, but weirdly enough, I never thought I would do it full time.
Mm.
Even when I was working at Bloomingdale's, I was like, "I love that I have both of these things. I love that this is fun." I was not taking any brand deals for years. I was like, "That's cringy, like, I don't wanna,
Oh,
like."
really?
Yeah, I was just for years, it was really just for fun, and it was, like, my passion where I was, like, sharing my outfits and all of this stuff. But then I left Bloomingdale's at the end of 2023. So it was that summer. It was
Mm.
like June, July of 2023. I was kind of in this place where I was like, I love this job, but like I'm kind of over it. I was like, maybe I want to find a new job. And then at that time, I was also like experiencing like a bit of a surge in like growth on content. I had started doing like the Soph, what are you wearing video? Like I had a
Mhm.
few videos kind of pop off and I started to put a little bit more energy into social media and I started getting offered a few more deals and I was like, why am I not taking these?
Yeah.
Like this is good money. Like I think I started to see like, wow, you can make a lot of money doing
Yeah.
this. And so I think this was like the universe or me manifesting for myself, but kind of from that point on, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with all of this information in my head, but I took a few deals and I decided, I was like, I'm going to put away all of this money. I'm not going to touch it.
Mm.
I'm going to save this money. I'm going to do a few deals and I'm just going to keep this in safekeeping. And I was kind of just like, I was wishy washy for a while and it was interesting. There were two conversations that actually triggered me to really take this on. One was with my therapist at the time.
Love.
Love therapy, always great. But she had asked me, she was like, how would you feel if you left Bloomingdale's? And I kind of was like, I don't think I would care that much.
Mm.
I was like, I don't know if I would. I think I am done. Like it was in that moment where I was like, I think I'm ready. And then I was kind of figuring out like what I wanted to do with all of this. And then in September, my parents were in town. And my dad, kind of how I mentioned before, he's so practical. And he has really been, as I get into talking about my business now, he has been instrumental in helping me to start my own business and in all the logistics side of it. But I remember we were in a car in New York and he had turned to me and he was like, Soph, like if you want to try this on your own, you're going to be okay. Like you've saved up all this money. Like I had saved up, I think like 6 months rent.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people, I think also this industry is hard because you never know somebody's financial situation.
Yeah.
And I think I was somebody who like did not have my parents like helping with my rent or like, I'm very lucky. My parents are so supportive and obviously will help me if needed, but like I didn't have the experience of kind of getting to just like dive in blind. I
Mhm.
think I dove in, but I was prepared. I wasn't going to just like quit and just like frolic around New York and like run through, all my money. So I had all of this money saved up from these few brand deals that I had taken. And my dad was kind of like, if you want to do this, do it. And I was like, whoa, if he's saying this, like,
Yeah, that's
I,
such a full circle
yeah,
moment.
it was such a full circle moment. I was like, if my dad is saying this and, everyone in my life was like, why don't you just try it? Like, you've been
Yeah.
doing this forever. And I think it finally hit me. I was like, yeah, like, why not? Like,
Yeah.
let's just try. And I kind of went into it being like, I'm going to try this. Worst comes to worst, I can always get a job in fashion again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so then I kind of decided it that September. I told my boss, like, I quit in November and I was so anxious about it. Like, I don't know why I was so angry. Like, I'm also kind of like a people pleaser type of person. Like, I'm not the type of person who can just be like, bye, I'm leaving. I'm like, oh, these are my friends. Like, so gave them a lot of advance notice. It was like, it's a very hard thing to do to quit your job. But
Yeah.
then I realized like, okay, I'm replaceable. Like, you got to do what's best for you. So I left and looking back at January 2024 me, I'm like, good for her because I didn't know what the fuck. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely like woke up, I remember on the first day and I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I would just like, I would go to coffee shops every day. I would make work for myself. I somehow just like did it. And like I said, I really went into it not knowing what it was like. I don't know. And now I'm here today and like I have a whole business from it and it's my full-time job and it's amazing. But I really kind of just dove into it head
Yeah.
first.
And I'd love to hear more about that. Also, I think it's just such a funny universal experience that like the dad sits you
Oh,
down is like, what's your money plan?
yeah, 100%.
And dads like don't really understand fashion. My dad has
No,
said the same
my
thing to
dad,
me. It's so funny.
yeah, my dad, like when we travel, like I bring like a month's worth of outfits and he brings a backpack with like 2
Literally.
pairs of shorts.
My
Like,
dad's always like, "I don't understand fashion." I'm like, "Okay."
totally.
But I think it is so interesting and something a lot of people could really benefit from hearing is like those early days when you're like, I don't really know where the work is coming in. I have to make it for myself.
Mhm.
What were you doing to now
Yeah.
having that business? Because it's kind of easy to be like, oh, she's just like, she's doing it. It's amazing. Like she
Yeah.
knows exactly what to do.
Totally.
What was that
No.
like figuring it out
And
process like?
by the way, I'm still figuring it out every day. I think a part of working for yourself and also being in this influencer space, which is new,
Mhm.
there is no method to the madness. There's no perfect path. But I think at the beginning, I had like a month of like, doing it, trying to like, and I remember the first thing I did, this was actually very instrumental for me. The first thing I did was I was like, I gotta have something to like keep me busy. So I started a series on Instagram.
Mm.
That was the first thing I did in January. I did this No Shopping January series. And I was each day like making this really creative video, getting styling in my closet, which is totally kind of my whole brand and what I still talk about a lot. So that was really great because I got a lot of traction from that. So I think like giving yourself something
Yeah.
to do, like giving yourself some sort of series and just being, I think if you're working for yourself, you have to be really disciplined. It's not for everyone. Like you have to be a very hard worker and you have to be able to create your own schedule. But I think more on the business side of it, I was like, okay, I think I need to find a manager.
Mm.
That was like my first step. I was like, because at first I didn't know. I was like, I came from the corporate world. Like, I could probably do this all alone. But I quickly realized I'm like, there are so many hats that you play in this industry because it's like the creative part of it where you're coming up with all these concepts. You're the talent. You're like on camera. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like I'm not acting, but I'm like talking to the camera, doing that. It's the editing. And then on the brand deal side of it, it's contracts, it's negotiating. And I kind of realized I'm like, I don't know so much about the contracts. I'm not the best at negotiating for myself. I also have a lot of like personal connections at brands and I was like, this is awkward to be like,
Yeah.
I want more money, like whatever. So I kind of realized that was not my strong suit and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like I'm going to be legit. Like I think I should find a management team that's like going to be pitching me. So I had reconnected my manager Ariel and Liat, shout out to them. They're amazing and they've been instrumental in helping me build my business. But Ariel has her own agency, Oslane Agency, and we had just connected through the industry a few times. She managed a couple girls I know, and I don't even remember how we met, but I had reached out to her when I was quitting my job. And then she was like, you reached out to me right as I was going into labor.
Oh my
So like I didn't hear from her, but then we kind of circled back. It was in February. So I had been on my own for like a month.
Mhm.
And then we connected and just chatted and I felt like it was a good fit. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to do this. And I think having a manager is really important because look, I know a lot of girls who do it on their own, which is great. But I think for me, I was like, I need some help, like I need
Structure.
some help and some
Yeah.
structure. So we kind of sat down when I signed with them and I told them, all of my dream brands and like every category. And, a manager's job is they're always pitching their talent.
Mhm.
So then I could kind of focus on like the content and building my page, growing organically and all of that. So that was probably the most instrumental thing that I did to like build my business. But then simultaneously, I just kept going. And I think in the content space, you have to stay really creative. You have to stay really on the pulse. You have to stay really authentic to you, though, at the same time. Like everyone's doing so much online. Like the only way you can be successful is to like do something different,
Yeah.
truthfully. So as much as like it's good to see what everyone else is doing, I try not to pay too much attention to what all the other girls are doing and posting and whatever, because you got to be original. So anyways, so I don't know. I feel like in those first few months, it was a lot of just like posting. I started posting more kind of these videos that are my favorite kind of videos to post where I talk more about personal style. I'll do like an overlay of a bunch of outfits of mine. And I love to write too. So
Yeah.
I'll write like I did this one video. It was like hi, my name is Sophie. It was just kind of a background on like my relationship
Like
with
that one
style.
went like viral. I know what you're
And
talking
that
about.
one, yeah, it went super viral. And I was originally was more TikTok, but then I think actually from that video, I got like thousands. It's crazy because I think Instagram Reels are great if you're a girl looking to get into content. Like I got thousands and thousands of followers from that one video. But that video was so personal and so about me that it wasn't just like, oh, this girl's cool. Like, I like her outfit. Like, people were
Yeah.
following me because they just got like this whole blurb on me. So I feel like my following is like very authentic. And I think another thing, I'm kind of like
I love all these
going.
tidbits of advice in the
I'm
middle.
always like tidbit. I'm like that. I was like that person that everyone's like, talk to Sophie. Like, she'll give you
Yeah.
advice. You know what I mean? But anyways, but I've also had a very slow burn in terms of like following. Like, I've been slowly growing this page like since I was in high school. And I think a slow burn is actually so much more powerful and sustainable than somebody who, blows up really quickly and has their moment. Like, I think in social media, there's all these like trending
Yeah.
people. But I think when you have this slow burn, like, and I've been doing it for so long, like, I feel like my community is very much engaged in like my life because they've been following me for like a long time. So I think there is a power in the slow burn, and keep going. Like, don't let like you see somebody gain like 10,000 followers overnight. Like, that doesn't matter necessarily. It's more about engagement and building a community. So yeah. So anyways, I feel like in those first few months, it was a lot of like trying new things, seeing what videos were sticking, started to get those deals come in from my management. And I think doing the brand deals themselves was a huge learning lesson and practice for me, because I didn't have actually much experience with like, I had so much experience with making content, but not necessarily like branded content.
Can you share a little bit, if you can, not like name brands or anything, but like kind of how that works and that back and forth?
Yeah. So how it works. So I would say it's a total mix of, I'll have a lot of brands like also email me directly or DM me, and then I loop them in with my management, or my management is pitching me. But anyways, a brand will come to me, however they come to me, through me or their management, and they'll be like, hey, Sophie, like, we'd love to work with you. These are the deliverables. Like, we want one reel, 3 stories. And then there's all these other things. And these are the things I didn't know about, which is why I needed a manager.
Yeah.
It's like whitelisting, like, can they advertise your video and boost it and play it? And then there's like exclusivity. Like, if you're working with a handbag brand, they might say, we don't want you to post any other handbags for the next month. So all of those extra things that they're asking for, you should be getting more money for. And that's why like I could never, I didn't know any of this. And why it was so valuable for me to get managers. But so they'll come to me, and then my managers will handle the back and forth of negotiation. And like, I have like set rates for all of these different things. But then depending on the brands, it's always a different rate, because all types of brands have different, like, some brands have more money, like a lot of like the high fashion brands, like they're not going to pay. But maybe like an alcohol brand is going to pay a lot. So it's interesting. So yeah, so my management will go back and forth with them, and then they'll come to me with an offer, and I'll say yes or no. And then you kind of go through this whole process of creating a concept, delivering that to the team, getting that approved, and then actually going through and creating the content and then posting it on your channel. I have learned so much from doing brand deals. I will only say yes to a brand deal if it feels authentic to me. I'm a super authentic person. That's at my core. I am like pretty much exactly how I am online. Like, it like hurts my soul to be fake. So like, I can't do something that doesn't feel authentic. But at the same time, last year I was like, okay, I got to make a living. Like, I got to make a living. But everything that I was offered, I was very lucky that even if it was a brand maybe I wasn't like super familiar with, I became familiar with it and I could make it my own. And I developed so many great relationships with brands from like working on those deals. And they really tested my creativity, because it's like, you can't do the same thing every time. You got to think out of the box. Like, you got to think about meshing that brand's kind of image with your image. It's so fun, honestly, for me now. I'm a very creative person, and I love that part of it, of getting, it's kind of like your mini creative directing, like all these like little campaigns.
It's a lot of different job roles, I think, in one.
Totally.
Content, it's like, no, actually, there's like a million things that you're doing.
Yeah, a million things. So the brand deals are really fun. And I think I've gotten so much better with them over time. And now I'm in a place where I feel very lucky that like I have more of the flexibility. Like, I've built my business enough where I can say no. Like, if it, like, I said no to my first big deal a couple weeks ago, which
that's scary.
Was scary because it was a good amount of money, but it was also very fulfilling to be like, wow, like I'm in a place where I can do this financially, which is great. But also it felt good to like feel very strong about my brand and to be like, this doesn't feel like it aligns with me and where I want to go. It doesn't feel like it's me. So I have the power to not do it.
Yeah.
And now I feel like with brand deals, I'm having a lot more fun. I've recently been working with an assistant and just like investing more into these brand deals, investing in the G7X, like all of these things just to make them look a little bit more professional and more tailored. I think, a lot of the brand deals at first I was doing, I was just talking to the camera or, I was scrappy with it. I'm
Yeah.
like this whole industry, it's so scrappy. Like you're kind of making it up as you go, but you start to learn and like try new things and do new things. And so it's very fun to like work on all of these
Yeah.
campaigns, especially with brands. Like recently I've done this year I have two brand partnerships coming out with Nordstrom, which like I'm from Seattle and
Yeah.
that was the store that I grew up on. Like that was like the store. So it's so full circle and cool to like get to make content for these
That's
brands and like
amazing.
get to do all this stuff.
Yeah. When would you say you started treating this as a business? Because I've heard you say multiple times, like, oh, now my business.
Yes.
And it's so interesting to me that people don't really talk about like
Mhm.
content creators or influencers
Yeah.
as like entrepreneurs. And
Uh-huh.
obviously, it's a little bit different. There's like the tech entrepreneur, but that's just one version of it. And like you said, it's super scrappy. You're figuring
Yeah.
everything out and you're setting your rates. It's just, when did you start to realize, oh, this is like, I have a
Yeah.
lot of value
Uh-huh.
to share, and this is something I can really grow?
Yeah. So I think when I first quit, and I think this is good advice for everyone, once again, bringing my dad into it. My dad is going to love this. When I was getting prepared to quit, there were a few logistical things that my dad helped me with. We got an LLC, Style with
Yeah.
Soco LLC. That was like a cool moment for me because I always have wanted my own business. And I really originally thought like my brand was going to be a clothing brand. And who knows, maybe that's something I'll do down the line. But it is a brand. Style
Mhm.
with Soco. It's a brand. It's an
Yeah.
LLC. So that was a cool moment. That was even before I quit when I got the like LLC papers. I'm like, this is
Like, I'm
legit.
yeah,
Like
legit now.
this is awesome. So yeah, so like that was really instrumental, like creating the LLC, getting a business bank account, like
Mhm.
going to Chase and like I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but opening up that account and like, doing all of those things, figuring out what I'm going to do with health insurance, like
Yeah.
all of that that my dad helped me with and still helps me with. And my dad is kind of, we call him the dadager. I have my
Wow.
managers, but then we have him and we're always talking. Also, when you're a content creator, it's like, what is a business expense and what is not?
Mhm.
Because it's almost like I am my job. So it's cool because I can like expense like a lot of, if I'm going to a vintage fair and, that's my whole thing, I can maybe expense like a piece or two because I'm going to post about it and
I
talk
love
about
that.
it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but so all of those logistical things I think were really helpful in being like, this is a business. But I think for the first few months, I genuinely had no idea what I was doing, like I was doing it, but it was just like, I don't know. And then I think it got to be May. I had just moved into a new apartment and it really started picking up then in May. Last summer, I think up until now, it's kind of been nonstop. And I think there were a lot of points in there where I'm like, oh, this is like I'm running like full-time thing. Like I'm doing it. And I think I still struggle with like actually seeing it as a business because there are so many blurred lines. It's like some days I'm like, okay, what do I do all day? I wake up and
Yeah.
I film like sometimes it doesn't feel like real life, but I think it's kind of been, I don't think there was like one moment because I think I'm still figuring it out. I think it's just been over time, just starting to realize like, okay, I've made enough money to like live, like I live in Soho and I can I can live my life. Like that part of it, like just the lifestyle part of it, like as having been someone who's like worked hard to
Mhm.
like make a living for myself, I think that part of it, even more than all of the like events and this and that, I'm like, wow, like I'm here
Yeah.
doing this on my own. And that is really cool. But I think it's kind of been like a gradual thing. And I really have to like remind myself and give myself more credit. Like, look what you've built. Cause
Yeah.
sometimes I get stressed. I'm like, what do I do? Like, what do I do next? There's not like, it's hard to like always make decisions. Should I do this deal? Should I go to this event? Should I work on this project? There's no right answer. And it's a lot on one person. You really are forging your own path. And I think I come back to that almost like every week. I'm like, I'm doing this on my own. And that kind of reminds me like, you do have a business, like you are doing this. But it's definitely like, I feel like yesterday I actually had a moment. Yesterday I had such a busy day. And like I said, I feel like I've had my assistant Liv, shout out Liv, where we love Liv, helping me and having somebody help me. Like this is the first time I've kind of had somebody helping me on a day-to-day basis, and having someone like that around makes it feel more legit too. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like I need someone to help me.
And you're
Like,
responsible for someone else's salary.
yeah,
That's a
totally.
big
Like,
thing.
I need someone else to help me. I feel like there hasn't been one exact moment, but it's just like I'm still figuring it out.
Slow burn. Yeah.
Slow burn.
What would you say? Because sometimes the day in the lives, it's like one day super slow, the next day it's like you're flying to Paris. What
Yeah.
is like a week in your life, would you say?
Oh my.
Maybe that's also like all
It's
over the
so
place.
funny because I was like, I thought that like at a certain point, like this would get more predictable,
Mm.
like I would have more of a routine. But I am somebody I've realized, and my friends will all say this, I thrive in chaos. I'll be like, I'm so busy, but like I love it. Like
Yeah.
I live for the busyness. I live to be busy. I've always been a hustler. And I think in order to be successful in this career, like you do have to be on the fly. And my
Mhm.
management team tells me too, they're like, you are someone like, also a lot of these brand deals, they come in last minute. And
Mhm.
they're like, can you turn this around in a couple days?
Yeah.
And my managers are like, we always know to like send you those because you're somebody who can like do it on the fly.
Yeah.
And I'm very much like that. It's very, I can never predict what my week will look like, but I have tried to like incorporate certain things like therapy and like working out like
Mhm.
in the morning consistently that give me some sort of routine. I also take French class,
Oh,
like
that's
all of
cool.
these little things that are once a week, but it's a mix of, filming content, organic content, filming the branded content, the brand deals, being super on top of, some weeks I'll have like 5 to film, some weeks I have none to film.
Mm.
And then, it also depends on what events are going on. And it's interesting because these events, I used to go to these events before I did this full time, and it was like my social, like it was like a social thing. Like I'd go, I'd have a cocktail, I'm like meeting new people, I'm having the time of my life. And now I go and it's like I've realized this is another thing where I'm like, this is a business. Oh, it's work.
Yeah.
And it's a weird dynamic with all of these like other influencers and people because it's a different relationship than you would have with like another coworker where it feels very, you're like, oh my God, hey girl, like,
Yeah.
how are you? Like, love you. Like, it's just very like, oh my gosh, hi. So it messes with my brain a bit
Mm.
because I'm such like a social and like friendly person. So I'm like, oh, these are all my friends. And like, I'm going to see everyone. But like at the end of the day, you're at these events, you're there to like, make content and build connections with the
Yeah.
brands. Like
It's
it's
networking.
networking. That's what it is. So there's a lot of events. Like this week I had so many events. There's a lot of going to events. And then, I feel like I don't get enough time of just like sitting at my computer and going through
Mhm.
my emails and working on Substack and all of these other things that I want to invest more time in. But it's just every week, it's just like very much on the go. I
Yeah.
would say it's a mix of filming content, a lot of editing too. The editing takes a while, editing content, going to events, going to anything sort of networking, meeting with people. But yeah, every week
Yeah.
is different, which is fun. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
It's a fun life.
It's very
And
fun.
you just launched a series with your friend Jess, the
Yes.
Meet Me in Five.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about that? What was
Yes.
the conversations leading up to that idea?
Oh my gosh. So Jess and I actually met through through social media like 4 years ago. Like when I first started posting on TikTok, I had met this girl, Nat, who we're friends with, mutual friend. And she had put me in a group chat with all these girls. Jess was in it, but we didn't really know each other. And
Mhm.
then we were at this event like years ago. It was like a party at what's that restaurant called? Little Prince. And she walked in and I was like, oh my God, Jespresso. And she was like, Soco. And we just kind of like instantly like became like we literally it was like you meet your soulmate
Yeah.
but in best friend form. Like we instantly became best friends from that moment on. And Jess and I's friendship is so special because it's like that she is that friend that I like met in my 20s
Mm.
that is like a sister, and I feel like that's very rare that that happens. And I feel like I never really had a friend that was as passionate about fashion and personal style as I was.
Mhm.
Like I have such amazing friends, but I don't think anyone was ever like I never had a friend with like the same like passions as me. And
Yeah.
it was so cool to like meet her and develop this friendship that is so deep and, meaningful. But then at the same time, we have all these shared interests and passions and like we love fashion. We could talk about it all day. We love all the shows and the vintage shopping and the designers and all of that. So literally for years, we've been talking about starting something. Like we would go to lunch, have all these ideas and be like, we need to do this. And then we kind of just like, our lives are busy. We
Yeah.
kind of whatever. we've had so many conversations over the years and we're like, do we start a podcast? Like, I think originally we had kind of wanted to do a podcast, but I feel like influencers starting podcasts, it's like there's so many people doing that. So we were at Happier Grocer in January.
I all like the name dropping of like locations.
Yeah, no, I have my spots. I love Happier Grocer. But anyways, we were sitting there. We had just gone on a walk. A thing that we've always done in our friendship. We've always lived in the same neighborhood.
That's amazing.
We both lived in the East Village at the same time, 5 minutes away from each other. And now we both live in Soho, literally on the same street. Totally random. But we always go on these walks. We're like, let's go on a walk. Let's chat. And these walks always like seem to like I remember that day we were both in a funk. It was like January. I feel like this January there was a lot going on in the world too. It was just like this January was dark. And we were both in a funk. And then we went on this walk. We ended up at Happier Grocer and we started talking about our ideas. And we're like, why don't we make what we're doing like these walks? Like, why don't we actually like film our walks? And I'm like, we are so dynamic with our styles. We both have very strong senses of personal style that are very different, but I feel like our outfits always kind of visually sit so nicely together. So I'm like, I like the idea of us like showing kind of like how we are in the world doing this. So we kind of just came up with the idea. We came up with the name Meet You in 5, which we were like, this is perfect. We came up with it that day and we're kind of had the idea, sat with it. And then over the next few months, we're like, if we want to do this, I think also in this industry, like if you have an idea, act on it.
Yeah.
Like don't sit on it. Like if you sit on it, you lose the momentum and it goes away. That's like a big part of my job too, is like when you have an idea, write it down and do it the next day.
Yeah.
You gotta like listen to that momentum. So, and it, like I said, this industry is scrappy. We didn't really know exactly what we were doing, but we tested kind of filming this. We kind of decided what we wanted to. We're like, okay, we'll get the little mics and we'll just like film our walks so we filmed it. We tried one and then we edited it together, sat down, and we're kind of still figuring it out as we go, but we're really excited about it because we feel like we do have so much to share.
Yeah.
She works full time in fashion and also has a styling business. I have my whole journey that we just talked about. And we also have so much to share just about like personal style and how to really empower women, to feel confident in their wardrobes. And I just think it's like fun. It's like two like cool girls in NYC like doing their thing and kind of bringing everyone along.
Yeah, it's very personable.
Yeah, it's very personable. It's very fun. We're really excited to be working on something together. And hopefully, I mean, we don't really know where it will go. It's just kind of like a figuring it out as we go kind of thing. But, I think it could be something that's going to be really cool that maybe we can work with brands on,
Yeah,
walking
100%.
to an event, we can maybe bring more people into it. So we're really going to kind of see how it goes over time. But we're really excited about it.
Yeah.
And just excited to like bring our brains together too.
100%. And especially because this is, like you said, one of your best friends. And I feel like something about the influencer space is like a lot of people are friends, but then you're also working together. And like you like when money's involved, things just get more complicated. That's just the name of the game. So I actually recently launched a business with one of my best friends. And people I feel like are always saying like, don't do it. Like don't go into business with your family or your friends or anything, like anyone you really care about. But like it's been amazing for me. So how has it been for you working with people you're close with and now like actually like starting a project you're really excited about with someone you love and like a relationship you like really cherish?
Totally. Well, Jess and I, we actually were texting about this because we have so much going on in our careers outside of this, which is great. So we're like, this is for fun. We're going to see where it takes us. We got such positive response from it like immediately. And we made a whole big deal about the launch. We did a whole photo shoot. It was great. But we kind of texted, we're like, we're never, if this ever gets in the way of our friendship, it's done.
Yeah.
Like, because our friend, like we really are, I think in the influencer industry, there's a lot of fake friendships, I will say. Our friendship is like 100% genuine and she's truly like my sister. So I think if this ever gets to a point where it would affect our friendship, then it's not worth it. Like to me, it's not worth it. But I think Jess and I, our brains, like we have like crazy brain. Like we are just both very creative people who our brains are running nonstop. And over the years, we get into and we're also very much there for each other in our own paths. Like Jess is such a source for me to go to. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm feeling about this. And like, I've been helping her like as she was launching her styling business since I kind of launched this influencer business, like we constantly go to each other for this kind of career stuff. So I really love, honestly, like working with people that I love and
Yeah.
trust. And I think we both have different strengths too, which is really great. And we both have different backgrounds, even though we're in the same industry. And I think one thing about me and Jess is we've never been competitive
Yeah.
because we have such different points of views, such different styles. Like we have an episode coming out this week about vintage shopping actually, and we say in it, we're like, we're never at the store like competing over the same piece. Like we're both like very confident in our own vibes and our own selves that I think we work really well together in that sense that
Yeah.
there's never been like jealousy or like, we're always very happy for each other and very excited to see what the other one is doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be great for us.
Yeah, and at least, like, for me, it's been I think that was something I was nervous about, and then me and my friend were talking the other day, we're like, "This has been amazing for our friendship."
Yeah.
Like, now, like,
No, it's fun.
it's so much
Yeah.
stronger, and, like, you're, like, the one of the people I'm closest to in my life,
Totally. Totally.
So, I'd recommend.
Yeah, totally. And I think like life, I strongly believe that like life just like takes you to where you're supposed to be with all these things. And
Mhm.
the universe brought us together to be best friends and then also to like start this business, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Okay, I'd love to get into, like, a few speed round
Mhm.
questions. Selfishly, I wanna know all about your vintage
Yeah.
takes and picks and everything. Do you have, like, a top 3 I'm gonna give you 6, I guess. Top 3 globally, like, anywhere in the world, and then 3 in New York.
Stores.
Yeah.
Number one vintage store of all time is Bobby in Paris. I post about it all the time. It's this store called Bobby. Pretty much like my favorite pieces are from there. It is the best. It's just like, it's more of a place you have to dig, but there's so much vintage designer for such good prices. New York is just, it's gotten very expensive. I would say Crossroads
Mm.
everywhere. There's locations everywhere. And I grew up on Crossroads, the Seattle Crossroads. Like my mom and I were going there forever. So Crossroads, New York, Seattle, all over. I have so many. I don't know where to choose. I'm going to choose this one because I just went there recently and I was really impressed by it. I was just in Palm Springs and I went to this store called The Fine Art of Design.
Oh.
It was such an incredible vintage store, like such a great curation of pieces and great prices. I feel like since I've been in the game for so long now, I know like when things are too expensive. Like a lot of the stores I'll walk into in New York that are super curated, I'm like, I'm not paying this. Like
Yeah.
I could get this for so much cheaper in another place. So I really loved this store. And I had posted about it on my Instagram and everyone was like, oh my God, this is the best store ever. One of my Instagram followers actually recommended it. So shout out to her. But amazing vintage designer, really good prices. And there was a sale rack in the back. Like I need every store to have a sale rack. Like
Yeah.
I am a sale rack girl. That's how I grew up. So it had like a $20 rack. It had like a lot of stuff that was half off. So I loved that. I thought that was a really good one. Those are a good top 3. I have so many. In New York, I would say Tokyo 7 is amazing. It's in the East Village. Really great vintage designer. It's been there forever. Really unique curation. Great vibes there. There's a lot of like Comme des Garçons, Issey Miyake, really cool brands. And then recently I've been loving No Standing NYC. Oh,
They
you
were
had the
just
founders.
on,
Yes.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
them. I've known them for years now. Their store is like right around the corner. And I've also been borrowing a lot of stuff from them for like events
Mhm.
and stuff. And I've found some like really, really awesome pieces there. And I like that they have like a big selection.
Yeah.
I'm a person who likes to dig, honestly. Like I think a lot of people like a curated store where there's only a few items to pick from. But since I've been shopping for so long, like I live for the hunt. So
Yeah.
I like when there's more to look at, more of a range. And then I think also what I love is the Manhattan Vintage Show, not so
Yeah.
much a store, but I love all of these vintage fairs that have been popping up because even if you're not buying anything, I know they can be overwhelming and also like a lot of the sellers definitely can like upcharge there because it is this big event. I think those places are a great place to get inspiration because you can go and you can see stuff and even if you're not buying it there, like it's like an event and you're meeting people, you're chatting with people. The vintage community in New York is awesome. Like everyone's just like a vibe. And
Yeah.
people who are at these vintage shows are like true fashion lovers. So it's just fun to connect with people and you get a lot of good inspo.
Yeah,
So-
I'm going to the Vogue Vintage
Wait,
Market
same.
on Saturday, and I'm so
Same.
excited.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay, I'll see you
I
there.
don't even know if I'll buy anything, but like, it's going to be a
that's what I thought.
museum of stuff.
That's what I thought. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just like to see stuff. Like vintage designer stuff, like it just like excites me. Like
Yeah.
nothing excites me like a vintage store. Like
I know.
nothing. Like I just like It's so
It's like a
exciting.
museum.
It's a
Yeah. I'm
museum,
so
and also,
excited.
like, the pieces that are meant for you are just, like, there, and it's so cool to walk into a vintage store and you find something and you're like, "Whoa,
I know.
this was meant for me."
Okay, I don't know how I'm going to pose this as a question, but I feel like something that stood out to me about your just like content and vibes, like you look really happy in
Oh, thank
all
you.
of things that you post.
Yeah.
And like it looks like you're actually like loving life. Like, is there something you think about when you're getting dressed in the morning or going to an event or
Mhm.
like that just like exudes that like joy?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people will post like there's that whole like New York influencers are boring
Oh, yeah,
conversation
yeah.
happening. Like
Totally.
everyone looks the same and
Yeah.
like you're dressing for like a certain type of person, but like
100%.
I really feel like you don't do
Yeah.
any of that. So, like, what are you kind of thinking about?
Yeah, I feel like for me, I've had such a beautiful journey with personal style. It's really been for me, fashion and getting dressed has been the way that I like share myself with the world.
Yeah.
And it feels like my clothes feel like a reflection of me. Like here I'm in my little pink, I have my jewels, my sparkles. Like when I get dressed and show up into the world, I think you're showing a piece of yourself. And I think the people who have the coolest style, their outfits aren't perfect, but they're perfect to them. There's a personal touch. Like when I go to the coffee shop, I'm like, ooh, what's that like random necklace that woman is wearing? Like, what's that personal touch? But I really dress to feel me. And
Yeah.
like, I dress, it's like a comfort blanket for me when I'm wearing these pieces because I've spent so much time. I feel like I actually saw Old Loser in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh
She
my gosh.
just made a TikTok and she said like, "We're not shopping, we're curating." That's me. I don't like shop like I'm not like shopping because like I need a new top. Like I'm curating,
Mhm.
like I am carefully curating my wardrobe, bringing in pieces. Like I'm only buying something if it like literally sparks joy. Like somebody commented on my reel like, "Oh my gosh, these things made my heart flutter." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm only buying something if it makes my heart flutter." And I've curated all these pieces, and it's not just the piece and how it looks, but it's like the memory of it.
Mm.
The memory of like finding it with my friends, or the memory of like, oh, I wore this on my birthday and it's really special to me. Like, I think clothing is so sentimental. And every time I'm wearing pieces, like I'm carrying those memories with me. And it just makes me really happy. And I just think also I've learned from my style, what I gravitate towards is more bright,
Yeah.
colorful, out of the box. Like I don't feel comfortable if I'm wearing something that's basic. Like I genuinely feel like I'm like, I have to like, every time I get dressed, like I need to add something that
Yeah.
feels like me. And I find that from dressing this way, I also like when I'm walking on the street and like that energy like exudes into the world and I'll just like meet people.
Totally.
Like I'll meet people because they're like, I love your outfit, or I'm like, I love your outfit. Like it creates a conversation. It sparks like this human connection, which to me is what fashion is all about. It's like a beautiful form of human connection. And I always want to like connect with people through my outfits and also like just inspire people to dress in a way that just like makes them feel good and makes them feel themselves, you know?
What a perfect way to end. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That
Yeah.
was beautiful. That's actually how kind of all of this started, where I was asking people if they had a piece that they could remember with specific events. And then I would do a speed round with them.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember what you wore for like your first kiss or when you
Yeah.
graduated or like your birthday last year? And like that connection of putting like memory to item, making it so much more than just like, I bought a shirt.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, I bought that. And then I met this person. And like,
Yeah.
we spilled wine on it 'cause we're
Uh-huh.
having so much fun. Like,
Totally.
those it makes it more human and like
Totally.
lively.
Totally.
Yeah. Amazing. And where can everyone find you? We've dropped the name a little bit,
Yes.
but
You can find me at Style with Soco on Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. I'm working on posting more on Substack. And then also you can check out Jess and I's podcast at Meet You in 5 on Instagram.
yay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.